Think about your everyday life for a second, whether you're at the office, hanging out with a complex group of friends, or just grabbing a coffee and people watching. There's always that one person, right? That one person who effortlessly gets exactly what they want. And the craziest part, they never seem to beg, they never pick a fight, and honestly, they barely even look like they're trying. Well, today, we're going to decode their secret playbook. We're breaking down the absolute strategic power of being completely, intentionally unreadable. So, we've all been taught from day one that transparency is this ultimate virtue. We walk around with this quiet, built-in assumption that if we just play fair and lay all our cards on the table, everybody else is going to do the exact same thing for us. But is being an open book actually a dangerous liability? The harsh truth is that assuming everyone's going to play fair when there are real, tangible stakes on the line, that is a massive risk. Most people literally lose the game long before the first argument even happens, just because they can't stop telegraphing every single thought and feeling they have. To really get this, we need a complete paradigm shift, because context is absolutely everything. Look, in a highly cooperative environment with allies you deeply trust, yes, for sure, transparency builds trust. But in a competitive environment, being an open book just means you're voluntarily handing over a highly detailed map of your personal weaknesses to people who haven't even earned the right to see it. When you just give away your internal state to competitors, you aren't building trust at all. You're just making it ridiculously easy for them to outmaneuver you. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the concept of mental choreography. Now, the really crucial thing to understand here is that being unreadable doesn't mean you're suddenly cold or emotionless or acting like some sort of robot. It's actually about mastering what we call mental choreography. It's the practice of strategic legibility. Basically, it's making the conscious choice to stop freely volunteering your internal states. Why? Because every single time you unnecessarily broadcast your emotions or, telegraph what you're going to do next, you're letting other people map your behaviors and predict your responses. Mental choreography is how you put yourself firmly back in the driver's seat. Which brings us to section 2, stopping emotional leakage. It's fascinating how experts and highly aware people are trained to spot what's known as emotional leakage. Long before you even utter a single syllable, your body is constantly confessing the truth. We're talking about involuntary micro-expressions here. A tiny half-second pause before you answer a question, a subtle twitch in your eyelid, or just a sudden tightening in your jaw. These little tells confess exactly what you're feeling to anyone who's actually paying attention. You could be smiling, but if there's anger flashing right behind your eyes, a strategic player is going to catch it instantly. So how does someone who is truly unreadable actually pull it off? Well, they don't just walk into a room and listen to the surface chatter. They walk in and immediately read the emotional pressure of the space. They know they have to lock down those leaks. And it's not about suppressing their feelings. It's that they treat their own intuition and internal reactions like highly protected, classified data. They decide exactly when and honestly if they're going to reveal that data to anyone else. Now, let's move on to section 3, the trap of explaining. Think about this powerful idea. When you walk someone through your reasoning step by step, you've essentially handed them the gavel. Every time you over-explain yourself, you're turning an interaction into a transaction. You are literally making the other person your judge. And let me tell you, dirty players absolutely love this. They're not listening to actually understand where you're coming from. No, they're listening to map out your defensive language and find the exact spots in your logic where you start to stumble. If your goal is to be unreadable, you have got to break the habit of constantly justifying your own existence. Remember, real authority announces, it decides, and it moves. It does not justify every single action to everyone in the room. Honestly, sometimes the absolute most powerful thing you can possibly do in a tense negotiation or confrontation is to just drop a heavy silence and let the outcome speak for itself. Next up is section 4, the power of controlled weakness. This one is a total game changer, and it is beautifully counterintuitive. See, if you walk in and immediately show everyone exactly how smart and capable you are, people get careful, they get defensive, and they clam up. But if you use controlled weakness, meaning you strategically choose when not to show what you know, you completely lower your opponent's defenses. You let them feel like they're the smartest person in the room. And you know what happens when people feel superior? They start talking freely, and they hand over their true thoughts and hidden priorities on a silver platter. Just compare these two approaches. The impatient person is always rushing to prove their competence, which instantly puts everybody else on high alert. But the unreadable person, they are playing the long game. They know that being underestimated is actually the ultimate strategic high ground. By patiently playing that card of controlled weakness, you force the other side into a state of total guesswork. And playing a guessing game is always, 100% of the time, a losing position for your opponent. And finally, we arrive at Section 5, becoming unreadable and expensive. Manipulators thrive on open access and predictable reactions, right? They keep going back to the well because the water is just so easy to draw. To shut that down, you have to make yourself incredibly expensive to deal with. And you do it in 3 steps. First, cut out the automatic emotional reactions. Second, stop volunteering explanations that haven't been earned. And third, you've got to get really comfortable sitting in heavy, awkward silence without feeling that panicked urge to fill the void with random chatter. When you do these 3 things, you fundamentally rewrite the math of any social interaction. By making yourself utterly illegible, you drive their return on investment straight down to 0. The mental cost of attacking your position or trying to play games with your emotions just becomes way too high for them to even bother. The payoff for their manipulation becomes wildly unpredictable. You essentially turn yourself into a puzzle that is just too expensive for them to try and solve. At the end of the day, you don't win by being the loudest in the room, and you definitely don't win by being the most aggressive. You win by becoming an absolute enigma. You transform into someone who moves with intense, deliberate awareness, rather than just acting like a puppet on a string, reacting to whatever pressure is put on you. Seriously, let that phrase sink in for a moment. I move with awareness. It's an incredibly powerful signal to yourself that you are the one in control. As we wrap up this explainer on the true strategic power of an illegible mind, I really want to leave you with this one vital question. Are you handing out the map to your inner world for free? It's time to stop telegraphing your next move. Guard your emotional data, master your mental choreography, and make sure you never forfeit your strategic freedom again. Because ultimately, position is freedom. Thanks so much for exploring this with me today, and I really challenge you to apply these concepts the very next time you step into a high-stakes room.